Mara was born carrying the wind. For years, she thought it was just a strange feeling she could not explain, a fluttering in her chest, a whisper along her arms, a soft breath against her face even when the air was still. Her mother would smile knowingly, brushing Mara's hair aside, and whisper, "The wind loves you, child. Never fear it." Mara, young and careless, had nodded, not understanding. But by the time she turned 17, she knew exactly what it meant. The wind was alive around her, sometimes playful, sometimes fierce, always listening. The valley of Kilema was beautiful yet harsh, the place of golden grasslands, the acacia trees, and winding rivers that gleamed in the sunlight. Life was simple there. Children ran barefoot along dusty paths, women washed clothes by the river, and men tended goats and crops, praying the rains would come. Mara loved the valley, but she also felt the tension beneath its surface. This year, the rivers ran low. Fields cracked in the sun. The elders whispered of famine creeping from the distant lands. Mara sensed it in the wind, a dry, restless sigh that made her stomach tighten. It was the morning Samia returned. The boy she had grown up with, once small and teasing, now taller, broader, his eyes calm yet filled with the kind of quiet strength that made Mara's chest race. He had been gone for years, studying with healers and sages in distant towns, learning ways to help people, and Mara had thought she might never see him again. The moment his gaze met hers in the crowded village square, something shifted in the air. The wind curled around her, gentle but insistent, brushing her hair and skirts as if recognizing Samia. "Mara," he said softly, stepping toward her. Her heart skipped. "Samia." The crowd faded as their eyes locked, and the valley itself seemed to hold its breath. Mara's cheeks warmed, and the wind spun lightly at her feet, teasing, alive, responding to the storm of her emotions. Samia smiled that crooked, familiar smile, and Mara felt relief, fear, and something far stronger, something that made her pulse pound faster than the wind itself. Over the next days, Mara struggled with what the wind meant, and with her feelings for Samia. He stayed close, teasing her, but also protecting her. In quiet moments, he would hold her hand, brushing his thumb along hers, grounding her when the wind responded too strongly to her emotions. Mara felt drawn to him in ways she had never allowed herself to notice before. At night, when the wind whispered against her window, she imagined it circling around him, approving. But their happiness was fragile. One evening, Mara's mother called her close, her face serious, eyes reflecting worry deeper than any drought. "Mara," she said, "you are a wind bearer. You were born to carry this gift, but it is dangerous. There is a prophecy, and I fear it is about you." Mara's stomach twisted. "A prophecy? Mother. I don't want this. I don't want storms or to harm anyone." Her mother's hands held hers tightly. "It is your gift. The wind itself chose you. You cannot run from it. One day, you must decide, to save or to destroy." Fear and doubt gripped her, but that night, Samia slipped quietly into her room. "I won't let anything happen to you," he whispered. "We face this together." Mara's heart trembled. She realized then that she trusted him completely. When their foreheads touched and their hands intertwined, the wind swirled softly around them, responding to their bond. Mara felt courage stir inside her, a mix of love and determination that made the wind obedient. The valley's life continued under the strain of the drought. The villagers grew desperate. Mara and Samia watched as families dug holes in the dry riverbeds, hoping for water that never came. Mara felt every person's fear in the wind, the mother clutching her child, the old man trembling in the sun, the young boys staring at the horizon. It made her restless, made her pulse quicken. She knew she had to act. Then came the strangers from Toresha, traveling on worn horses under the blazing sun. Their robes were dusty and torn, their eyes wide with desperation. One of them knelt before the elders, begging for a wind bearer to bring rain. Mara's heart ached at their suffering. She wanted to help, but the thought of failing terrified her. The wind around her stirred, anxious, impatient, urging her forward. Samia stood by her, holding her hand tightly, his presence steady, grounding her, reminding her she was not alone. "You must come with me," Samia said quietly that night as they prepared for their journey. "I will not leave your side. Not now. Not ever." Mara's heart raced. She felt the depth of his love, his unwavering courage, then something inside her opened, allowing the wind to come. The two of them left the valley at dawn, walking hand in hand along the winding hills, Mara's skirts rippling in the breeze, Samia's robes flowing around him. The sun painted long shadows across the cracked earth, the air filled with dust and faint hope. Their journey was perilous. Mara struggled to control the wind. A wrong thought, a surge of fear, and she would create a small storm that could injure them or others. Each night, Samia held her, whispering words of reassurance. They shared memories, jokes, and quiet confessions in the firelight. Mara felt herself falling for him completely, more than the playful boy she had known. He was now her protector, her partner, and the anchor that kept the storm inside her from consuming them both. On the third night, a dark figure appeared on a distant hill. The warlord of Teresha, cruel and relentless, had been tracking them, intent on seizing Mara's power for his own. Mara's heart pounded, and the wind rose instinctively, swirling violently around her. Samia stepped in front of her, arms raised, shouting, "You will not take her." The wind became a living barrier, whipping dust and debris into the air, striking the warlord and his men back. Mara struggled to control it, panic threatening to overwhelm her, but Samia's steady presence and whispered encouragement helped her focus. The battle raged, the wind howling, the warlord stumbling, the two of them standing together against danger. Mara realized she could wield her power not recklessly, but with love and intent. Slowly, the storm yielded, retreating to her command. The warlord, defeated and fearful, disappeared into the night. Mara and Samia embraced, exhausted, hearts pounding, but alive. Finally, they reached the hills where the rains had long ceased. Mara closed her eyes, listening to the whispers of the wind, feeling it respond to her courage, her love, and the desire to save those in need. Slowly, clouds gathered, dark and heavy. The first drops fell, cold on her skin, washing the parched land. Rivers swelled, fields turned green, and villagers in the distance rejoiced. Mara opened her eyes and saw Samia smiling, drenched and glowing with pride. She stepped into his arms, the wind curling gently around them, protective and soft, celebrating their victory. They stood there together, rain soaking them, the valley alive with renewed life, the bond between them deeper than any storm. Mara had carried the wind, controlled it, and used it to save her people. She had faced fear, destiny, and the heart-stirring power of love. And through it all, Samia had been by her side, steady, strong, and unwavering. In that moment, Mara understood that her gift was not just power, it was responsibility, courage, and a chance to love and be loved fully. The valley would remember the girl who carried the wind and the boy who stood beside her forever. The journey continued through hills and valleys, each step carrying Mara closer to her destiny. She struggled to control the wind fully, every emotion sent it swirling unpredictably. Samia remained by her side, holding her hand, steadying her heart. They passed small rivers, dry fields, and villages whose people whispered about the girl who carried the wind. Mara's confidence grew slowly, fueled by Samia's encouragement and the quiet whispers of the wind that guided her. On the third night, they camped under a canopy of stars. Mara struggled with exhaustion and fear. Shadows danced across the ground as the wind whispered through the trees, forming shapes that seemed to speak. Samia lit a small fire, then Mara sat beside him, shivering. "You can do this," he whispered, brushing her hair back. Mara closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, letting the wind respond to her determination, forming a protective circle around them. The next morning, they encountered wildlife along the path, antelopes, birds, and monkeys. Mara laughed softly as the wind lifted her skirt, spinning it playfully around her. Samia smiled, noticing her growing ease. The wind, once unpredictable and wild, now danced with her, responding to her emotions. Every gust became a friend, every swell a companion. Mara felt herself becoming one with it, realizing that the power she feared was a gift. As they neared the high hills of Teresha, the air grew tense. Dark clouds gathered far ahead, signaling the warlord's presence. Mara's heartbeat quickened, and the wind swirled wildly around her, anxious and powerful. Samia tightened his grip on her hand, whispering, "We face it together." Mara nodded, feeling courage rising within her. She realized that her love for Samia and the people she wished to save strengthened her control, making the wind obedient to her will. The warlord's camp sprawled below, guarded by men in dark robes. Mara felt fear but also determination. She whispered to the wind, shaping it into a shield around herself and Samia. Rocks and dust lifted into the air, forming a wall between them and the enemy. Samia held her hand firmly, whispering encouragement, his presence steadying her racing heart. Mara's magic responded to her emotions, growing stronger with every beat of her heart. The battle began. Mara released a controlled gust, sending dust and small stones flying toward the warlord's men. They stumbled and fell, shields raised too late. Samia drew a stick to defend, his movements fluid and precise. Mara's heart raced, but she remembered her mother's words, courage, control, and love. The wind obeyed her commands, forming a shield around villagers who had followed to help, guiding them safely. Every action strengthened Mara's confidence, and with Samia by her side, she felt unstoppable. After hours of struggle, Mara summoned a massive gust, forcing the warlord to retreat. The sky darkened, then clouds began to gather naturally, responding to her growing power. She collapsed into Samia's arms, exhausted but relieved. Tears mixed with sweat on her face, but a smile emerged. Samia brushed her hair back, holding her close. The valley, once dry and desperate, was about to witness its first rain in months, all because Mara had embraced her gift. Finally, Mara lifted her hands to the sky. The wind whispered around her, lifting her skirt and hair gently, circling like a halo. Clouds formed and darkened over the valley. Slowly, rain began to fall. Rivers swelled, fields turned green, and villagers danced in joy. Mara looked at Samia, who smiled back, soaked but glowing with pride. Their bond had been tested and strengthened through danger, fear, and magic. Together, they had faced destiny and prevailed. As the rain fell and the wind calmed, Mara and Samia embraced. Mara understood that her gift was not just power, but responsibility. The wind, once wild and frightening, now danced with her, responding to her love, courage, and determination. She had carried the wind, mastered it, and used it to bring life back to the valley. Samia kissed her forehead gently, and Mara smiled, finally feeling at peace. Their journey had ended, but their story had only just begun.